All right, we're live right now and super excited to be here with Nick. This is a topic that we have really heard as far as a lot of visibility on bringing in headsets into the classroom. And this topic was presented to me, and I thought this was a great opportunity to get some more in depth on what this looks like, how this could be used in education. And I'm excited to be here with Nick, who is the CEO of ThirdEye. And Nick, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for your time today. And my name is Nick Charakuri. I'm CEO of ThirdEye, and we make augmented reality smart classes as well as software solutions. And we have many interesting use cases in the educational space that we're happy to talk about, and glad to have this opportunity.
Very cool. Yeah, and I just tagged you in a post with the live stream so that you're welcome to share that.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, this conversation is really conversational because what I'm looking to do is more so get the background of what these tools could look like in education and in the classroom typically. And I was sharing with you a bit ago that either we have people that say, no way, I'm not going to touch that. Let's see how it turns out. It's just, going to fade out. This is something that, might be popular right now, but won't be in the future, which obviously we know is not true. But really kind of waiting it out to see what happens. And then you have other teachers that are like the go-getters. They're the first ones to test it out, and they want to bring it right into their district and into their campus and right with their kids right now. And when they do, they really haven't thought through or planned how to bring these types of tools into their classroom. So my goal in interviewing you today, Nick, is more so of just talking about the conversations that I typically hear after a purchase has been made. I mean, I can go through my messages right now, and a lot of them actually are like, I went out and bought this set. We had a budget. This is what we bought. These are great, but how do I set them up? What do I do now? I don't have a Facebook account for my students. Like all these issues, space, bandwidth, cost, all the other factors, management. So my goal in talking to you about this is kind of bringing to light some of those issues so that as people are considering what technology, immersive technology they want to bring in, and really any technology, that they really have a thought through plan and that it is practical. Not all of them are practical to bring into the classroom. Even if I love the technology and it's fun to play with and use, it doesn't always mean that it's something that's practical for every class. So I'm excited to kind of ask these questions, and feel free to elaborate on whatever you think you want to share, and especially the situations you've already seen. But you were sharing with me a minute ago some of the things you've already done in setting up in education. Do you mind sharing that?
Definitely, Jamie. So we're seeing some really interesting use cases for augmented reality in the educational space. As you may know, AR is a really futuristic technology. You have virtual reality, you have augmented reality, and you have mixed reality. Virtual reality, just to provide a real quick background, is those headsets that take you to another place. They occlude you from the real world, like Oculus Quest. Whereas augmented and mixed reality, you're still in the real world, but you can get digital information displayed live on top of your field of view. So this is really beneficial for any real world use cases where you want to augment it with digital information. And we're seeing some really interesting use cases in the educational space. And I'll just quickly go through some that we're seeing and that have really big future potential as well. One is AR remote tutoring. So as AR becomes more cost-friendly and accessible, for example, a student can wear these glasses. A remote tutor can see exactly what they see in real time via this camera feed. Everything is saved in live in the cloud for future reference. So you can have remote tutoring, especially in educated underprivileged areas. This is technology that can help bring knowledge from another hundreds of miles away to students. So that's something we're seeing is AR remote tutoring is one really strong potential use case. Another really popular one is the ability to display 3D holograms. So one really valuable thing for students is the ability to visualize information. So instead of reading it on your book or even watching a 2D video, with these glasses, you can have a virtual 3D hologram. So for example, you could have 5 students each wearing the glasses and have a virtual human body that's hovering in midair that students can walk around and look at different parts, a virtual solar system. So the ability to visualize educational information in 3D holographic manner is something that augmented mixed reality has a lot of potential for. And that's what we have the ability to do, and we're seeing strong use cases for. There's also other use cases we're seeing for more specific educational uses. For example, thermal scanning. So with these glasses, there's a thermal sensor. So you could use it for medical and engineering use cases where students are in those fields and they can look at an object and get a temperature reading of what they're looking at. So this is valuable, we feel, in the medical and engineering space. And we're coming up with the ability to have 0.1 degrees Celsius plus or minus reading. So it's very accurate and is useful for training in those fields. Also, for some, we're seeing drones also being used more in some fields. So you can also control a drone with these glasses. So students can be able to view a drone via these glasses and be hands-free while they're using the drone. Another educational use case we're seeing is the ability to create 3D content. So with these glasses, you can scan any object into a 3D model and save it into your phone or web interface. So this is useful if you want to create a database of objects that you may not have 3D models of yet. So these are just a few of the educational use cases that we're seeing. We have many software partners who are working with universities and other educational institutions who are also making their own software on our glasses. Our glasses run on Android 9.0, so it's very easy to develop applications on them. But we definitely view the educational space as a huge potential market for augmented reality, specifically the ability to visualize what you're learning in a 3D holographic manner. And we have videos illustrating this, and we're happy to share those, as well as the ability to see what I see in real time and get this live instructional help for students. But it's pretty limitless, some of the other use cases that we're seeing. So it's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think some of your points here are really important. The thermal, to me, it's those opportunities beyond just seeing somebody's temperature, some of the aspects of how we interact, but that thermal really sensor to be able to identify what's human, right? As opposed to another object, being able to detect gestures here in the future and motions that we typically have in the real world. I think that there's a lot of variations when we're talking about AR too, because there's quite a bit that we have available through our phones. You mentioned 3D scanning. I'm guessing that's LiDAR technology that's being implemented, so or similar. Those types of technologies that we're now finding in some of the technologies that we all have access to. But the capabilities of not actually having to lift up a device, hold the device. How do I interact if I'm holding my device? I think that there's the flexibility of being hands-free, if you will, and engaging like we would in the real world. And another piece, as you were talking, one of the things that crossed my mind was safety. And safety is definitely a big issue when you're talking about some of these headsets, because you have a headset that it stops from being able to see potential dangers. You don't have the same kind of visibility to know exactly where you're at. Kids get sick because they don't have, those types of problems that they run into on the VR side that they wouldn't necessarily run into on the AR side. So I think that's certainly promising. And if you ask me, and you were saying, Jamie, what's the future? In my opinion, I think AR is the future in a lot of ways. VR has some really cool capabilities, but I think it only reaches that limit until it brings in the augmented reality and that mixed reality. So I definitely foresee that those are some of the very powerful technologies that we can easily implement and interweave into our normal life. Whereas typically in VR, who's going to walk around with a VR headset all day, right? So to be able to have something like glasses on and to be able to use that kind of technology is something that is more seamless. If it's super disruptive, everybody talks about, disruptive tech, that's great. No, if it's too disruptive, people don't use it. They want something that works easily into their lives. And that's when you really find the mass usage, the general public using it. So since I do see a headset on right now that you have, do you want to share a little bit about it?
Sure. So these are our X2 mixed reality headsets. They can do AR and MR. So when you put it on your face, you get about a 42-degree diagonal field of view, which is pretty large, kind of covers a lot of your field of view. And in that field of view, you can display any digital information you want. So a 3D hologram, live instructions, really display any AR information you want. And I totally agree with you that AR has a much bigger market than virtual reality. Virtual reality is primarily aimed at gaming and entertainment, whereas augmented reality, most studies, even big research studies, project this as a much bigger market because you're still in the real world and you're getting the relevant digital information you need live on top of your field of view. So we definitely view AR as where the future of this tech is going. And also these glasses are much more lightweight than VR goggles. They look more like a normal pair of glasses. And we're coming up with the next versions of our glasses, which will look almost like a pair of sunglasses. So they'll be much more user-friendly, much more user-intuitive, and something you can wear for a lengthy period of time, and also something that is easy to look at. So augmented reality has a lot of potential applications in educational space, some of which we went over. And in terms of safety for students, that's something where we've done a lot of testing on our glasses. You don't experience that vertigo feeling that you experience virtual reality. With AR, you're still in the real world. And we've seen people wear this for 30 minutes or an hour straight and use it fine. We also have some software built in. For example, people who can't see properly, we have software that zooms in, zooms out to the level they need to see, and also color contrast. So it helps people who have prescription inserts or also suffering from some type of vision impairment. We also have device management software called MDM that comes with all our glasses out of the box. So we developed the software as well, not just the smart glasses, but also the software. And what this MDM software allows you to do is control exactly what the students see or what the user sees on the glasses. So because these are Android based, you could have like any apps running on it, like even Netflix, things like that. But for these specific use cases, we only want the students or the users to use it only for the apps that they're supposed to use it. So our device management software controls the glasses, controls when you turn it on, what apps can you have access to, and it really controls that user experience and enhances the device security as well. So we've done some things on that aspect to, on the hardware side and software side, to enhance the safety and security of these devices. And we really want them to be used to their full potential. And our glasses are entirely hands-free, so that's really valuable. There's some smart glasses that have a wired pack, but being all in one is really valuable. That's something we're getting really good feedback on. And they're also pretty lightweight at only 10 ounces, so they can be worn for a pretty lengthy period of time. But yeah, I think the beauty of being Android-based is we have the ability to port applications very easily onto the glasses, and also students can develop applications very easily using our SDK. And one thing we're actually coming out with is like a ThirdEye university type program, where a lot of schools, a lot of universities, they still don't have like AR, MR kind of curriculum. So what we're trying to do, and that's something I try to do even at Penn with the AR MR club, is make like a certification course for students. So maybe like a few month long course where they learn kind of the basics of AR. If they want to get very advanced, they can even learn how to make an application on the glasses. And by the end of the course, they can be considered kind of certified for augmented reality. And this type of certification will become more and more important for young students as they enter the workforce. And we're trying to do that and kind of spread the knowledge base of this technology to students in every university nationwide, hopefully. So we're creating that program right now, and I think that's something that can also help make this tech more pervasive as well.
100%. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm guessing you're using something like Unity in order for them to build. Great. And you mentioned Android a couple different times, but I'm curious, does it require, is it essentially running from an Android device? Or is it something that is standalone and can function on its own, but you install apps through your mobile device?
So these are entirely standalone. So you have your processor here, you have your battery here, you have your optics here for the virtual screen. So they're all in one. So you don't need to use your phone, or you don't need to connect to a battery pack or compute pack. So that's a really good, makes it really easy to use, being all in one for users. But we offer the ability for users to control the glasses from their phone if they want to. Like we have a wireless app for wireless touchpad, but you can control the glasses with audio commands. You can say like open flashlight, and flashlight will turn on. You can use gestures, you can move your head movement, or you can use like a wireless controller. But the glasses are all in one, so you don't need to use anything else if you don't want to.
So if I had to compare, I know this is going to be a tricky question, and we did not prep this, by the way, at all.
No worries.
But if I had to say compare your device to the HoloLens, what would you say helps your device stand out from that device?
Definitely, and that's a common question we get, and definitely a lot of customers have asked that. And some of our main advantages and why customers have picked us are, one, we're Android based. So HoloLens uses a closed Windows operating system, which is slightly more difficult than an open source Android operating system. So for Android, you can, if you have an app that works on your Android phone, it's really easy to port that onto the glasses. We're also an end-to-end solution provider. So we don't just make the smart glasses. We also do the software. We offer on-site support. That's really critical, where if someone gets a shipment of these devices, we have someone, if they need it, go on site and spend however much time is needed to get everyone up to speed, get their feedback, and really get the onboarding process is really critical for new technologies. So we try to do the onboarding process very critically. We're also very lightweight, so we're about half the size of HoloLens. It's about 10 ounces. So we're much more lightweight than HoloLens, and we're lower priced as well at about 2K. And we offer like bundled solutions, leasing programs, and things like that. So those are some of our main metrics. We also like have great partner programs and try to offer great support. So we have had many people use our glasses for those reasons. It just makes their lives easier.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, actually, you mentioned accessibility for visually impaired students. And I want to say that I quoted your device as far as in my last book, as far as some of those visual impairments that people are using this technology in order to be able to see. Legally blind, color blindness, some of the issues, like you said, for them to actually be able to interact with people. This technology is doing some pretty wild things. So very excited about the future of how we can connect these dots for all of our learners, really, and meeting their needs, whatever their situation may be. So cool. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of these items that we had talked about. Device management, I'm going to tell you, I have heard this daily. Lots of frustration when it comes to things like the Quest. How do we manage these? We bought a class set. We bought so many. We don't know what the students are doing. What do I do now? Oh, device management's available for business. Oh, it costs more than the device itself. We can't afford that on an annual basis. So it's like, you're seeing them go through this situation with device management, but you cannot hand out a bunch of devices to students without there being some sort of limitation and monitoring and making sure that what is being presented to students is safe, especially when you have devices like the Quest that have a ton of different, very inappropriate pieces of content. Right, that's easily accessible for our students. So it's not shut down. It's not restricted and for whatever they're doing on there, you have no idea. There's some ways you can kind of get some visibility, but to say you're doing that with large quantity of devices in the classroom is impossible. So with device management, you had mentioned just a minute ago that you have used device management. Is it something that you built? Is it something you're working with a partner? And how exactly does that work?
Sure, that's a great question. And that's why one of our big features for our company is we don't just make the smart glasses, but we do the end-to-end software as well. And one of the softwares we built out is our mobile device management software, MDM software. And that comes pre-built with all our glasses. And this enables whoever the admin is to preset the security. So what apps can the students have access to, just educational apps? They can track the time that the device is being used and get a lot of other analytics. So a lot of the device management features, we have it out of the box. We have many people using it right now. And that's invaluable for this educational security mechanism. So that's something we developed in-house, and we're continuing to build out more and more features. But right now it is something that is available and it comes preset with all our classes, along with some of our other software. So definitely device management and educational for security purposes is really critical. And that's why we developed that software in-house. We have full control to add any new features we need to it. And it's absolutely needed for any large deployment.
So is that something you're saying comes standard? So when
Yes,
you're
comes standard for the classes, yes.
Standards. Okay,
Yes.
that's huge. That's
we offer dedicated technical support as well for each of our deployments. So any questions, how do we set this up? How do we use this feature? Onboarding, what we found is really, and that's exactly what you said, is like they get a shipment of some devices, and then there are questions like, how do you use it? How do I set security, or what, et cetera. So one of our biggest focuses is onboarding. So that's like the most critical step for a new technology like this, the step from when they get the glasses to being comfortable using them or using our software. And that's where we offer on-site support and dedicated technical support. And what we found is within a week or so, people are comfortable using this tech, which is really good to see.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was at a conference in Florida, and a very large school district had just purchased 1,000 Oculus Go's, and said, "Oh, we're going to get this together, but how do we get in touch with Oculus? They won't return our call. They won't help us."
That's an issue with a lot of larger companies.
Yeah.
But for us, like no matter how big or small you are, our onboarding is very streamlined, and we really haven't had any issues, which is great to see. And we also listen a lot to feedback we get. So that during the onboarding session, the first few weeks, how's this feature? Can you edit this feature? And by listening to customer feedback and user feedback over time, like the onboarding has just gotten smoother and smoother. And now it's a very good process. So when anyone gets these devices, or anyone who uses our software for remote tutoring or things like that, they can just have someone on site or pick up the phone anytime or have a video call, and they get someone dedicated, which is absolutely critical for new tech, because this is the first time they're seeing this tech like this for many of them. So it's really critical.
So that kind of goes into the next step of how many devices are appropriate. So considering space in the class, considering the bandwidth in the classroom, considering safety within, disinfecting, what does this mean when you're sharing devices, all those factors. So quantity per class, and considering even levels, right? What does this look like for elementary? Is this appropriate for elementary? Legally, is this appropriate for elementary, right? So all the way through college, what would you say would be appropriate quantity considering those things?
Definitely. And I would say most of our current use cases are working with universities, though we are working on getting into the lower levels as well. But in the university setting, what we found is a lot of these college programs, they have these research programs, and they want to utilize augmented reality for their research programs. So the research group, they purchase glasses and they begin development, and it's a lot of R&D purposes for this. In the classroom setting, we recommend like a few glasses, not one for every potential student for the reasons you mentioned. But having a few devices in the class would enable them to experience the shared holographic experience, where you can have like this virtual human body, a virtual solar system, and have like different students walking around it and seeing it from different angles and having multi-user experience. I think that's really critical to experiencing mixed reality at its full scope. So I think that's what we're seeing, and we recommend for definitely like middle school and high school. And then when it gets more into the R&D and like creating custom software applications for this, maybe in high school or college for your classes where you want to start developing Unity-based apps for this, that's when we're seeing it becomes more on a per user basis, as students develop applications for their own use case, and by then it's much more experience as well how to manage this.
Right. Yeah. And I do see that people are watching live right now. So if you have any questions as we're talking, feel free to put it in YouTube. I'll make sure to relay that. As we're looking at these devices, oh, Linda Edwards said, I'm sorry I'm late. No worries, Linda. Glad you're here. So as we're looking at some of this technology and looking at these headsets, augmented reality headsets, mixed reality headsets, if I was an elementary classroom teacher and I was looking at this, would you recommend at this moment, considering research, considering cost, considering the applications that are available for it in this case, do you think that the right season then would be that middle school, high school?
Yeah, I think for that aspect, the strong use cases for them would be remote tutoring, where a student could wear the glass and a teacher could see what they see in real time, provide them live remote tutoring help, and also the ability to visualize new concepts in a holographic manner. And that's where having this shared experience wearing these glasses, maybe visualizing a new physics concept or new biology or different course concept, but visualizing it in 3D and the ability to walk around that as a virtual hologram and play with that hologram is something that can help students learn concepts and visualize concepts better. And then once you get to next level, like high school and college, then we're seeing it's more of R&D use cases for developing custom apps for like an own app you want to make as software developer for software course, or like R&D purposes for universities. So I think those are kind of the levels we're seeing. And I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's so many applications that have been built using augmented reality that it would be wise to partner with some of those levels that have already been custom created. Like Merge is a great example. They've done so much content on the early, I want to say maybe third grade and through middle school type content. And really that, it's been built, it's designed, it's flexible, but even having more capabilities by using this kind of technology for our students, having them already, instead of starting from scratch, building something, but essentially having them, partner in these kinds of devices to be able to have more flexibility in that way. So, what I was thinking as you were talking is one of the questions I always get is, whatever happened to Google Glass? Why do you think that failed? And in my opinion, I think it was just before its time. It was just people weren't ready. They weren't really sure about how to take that. I think privacy certainly came in, and we'll get to that too. But why do you think that your headset today is going to fit the market that Google Glass back then could not?
Definitely. So there's some major differences between what Google Glass came up with a few years ago and where technology is now. So a few of the main differentiators were on Google Glass was one little display above your right eye. I think it was about a 13-degree field of view. So you really couldn't display like a virtual hologram or do much other than display like what's the weather or simple text or take a picture. Whereas with technology and now with glasses like these, when you put it on your face, you have a much wider field of view. It's about a 42-degree field of view. And the technology has gotten to the point with the camera and sensors built in where you can display 3D holograms that Google Glass didn't have the ability to do. And this ability to spatially map your environment and display things in 3D is something that enables much more sophisticated applications to be developed, especially in the educational space. And also things like the field of view has increased, the processors and battery have been optimized. So the overall experience is much more user-friendly now, and the potential applications have increased a lot more to be able to display like a virtual 3D solar system, or have someone like see what you see in real time and live annotate instructions for you. These are all features that weren't possible a few years ago, but going forward, the reason this will slowly become more and more pervasive, and eventually we foresee that almost every organization will have something like this, is because the technology has reached a point where now you can do many applications on it. And it's the application's potential has also increased significantly. So I think definitely it's been significant leaps and bounds since Google Glass, and now it's the things you can do with this technology are much more useful, and it makes sense for the investment as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to move into student privacy, because I know I had a discussion with a group talking about 5G and what this means and this capability. And one of the things that seemed to be on the rise is a concern over student privacy. In this case, what do you do with your product to guarantee that that student privacy is protected, is safe, but then also the data you're collecting is not necessarily, well, let me ask you, is it collected on an individual basis? So that digital identity of that person, is that being collected, or is it a general, like your analytics, you were talking about, that insight that you're getting? What have you done? What steps have you done to make sure that this is appropriate for the educational system in that way?
Sure, that's a great question. And that's one of the reasons why we put so much focus into our mobile device management. And our device management has features such as it restricts where the classes can be used. So you can even geofence. So students can't take the classes out of the classroom, for example. If they take it out of the classroom or out of their school system, they won't operate. Restricts Wi-Fi, restricts internet access, and all data is not saved locally. It's saved securely in the organization's cloud storage that only the admin of that organization can have access to. So we have many customizations like that. Right now, and the device also end-to-end encrypted. So it has end-to-end encryption, so we haven't had issues with any hacking or things like that. So we've taken many steps, both on the base Android level with end-to-end encryption, as well as with mobile device management. We have many security systems and protocols that would really restricts the use of these classes only for the classroom or the exact use case you want to use it for. And this is all something, and before we ship out the classes, we can easily set up and preset onto the classes. So we have security mechanisms like that so far we're at cutting edge for MDM, for augmented reality. So that's something we developed a device management system specifically for the classes for things like this.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, cost is something that we didn't talk about. I know that you mentioned a minute ago that does stand out from the HoloLens. In your case, I think you said it was about $2,000. Did I hear that correctly?
About 2,000, but then we offer like bulk pricing and leasing programs for depending on quantities as well.
What would you say, do you have a future to bring down those prices so that it is something within education that would suit those budgets that they currently have to bring this kind of technology in?
Definitely. And that's always in a roadmap, making it more accessible. Right now, for a mixed reality device like this, I would say we are one of the most cost-effective solutions in the market compared to HoloLens or Magic Leap, which are other two main mixed reality devices. But we're working on our next versions. We're trying to optimize our technology, and every version we're trying to make it lower and lower and get it down to under 1,000 and get it to a phone pricing, like a Samsung or iPhone pricing. So we're on that pathway, and it's only a matter of time. But so far, we try to offer like the most cost-effective solution in market, as well as something that's very technically advanced compared to other mixed reality solutions.
Have you noticed any other educational organizations working with grants to be able to bring this in?
Yes, grants is a huge thing, especially for education, especially in the university space.
Yeah.
And that's where we have like a grant team. We have a proposal writing team in-house, and we're working obviously like with McGill University, a few others, and where their college team, their R&D teams, they submit jointly for a grant, and then they can use our augmented reality technology, and that obviously solves the issue of funding. And there's a lot of tremendous funding available from the government for university research programs, and especially for augmented reality type research, because it's at the cutting edge of the R&D space. So we're working in the university space on like for remote surgery, for example, and some other very cool advanced things. But the grants are a big focus for us, and that definitely alleviates the financial stress for deploying this.
100%. Yeah, I can see that being difficult, that first purchase. I think that it pays itself off in time, though, when you consider what's being offered, but that's great. The last question that I have here is geared towards educator training. So that is something that, I mean, it won't get implemented. This is unfortunately another area that I see somebody goes out and spends $5,000 on this system, right? And they're like, oh, we brought in this AR system. Here's this computer. Here's some glasses to go with that computer. Here's this technology. You have to buy all the software because it doesn't come standard, but that's, this is available. And then the person that's there gets fully trained, although it's still very much over their heads. And then they're gone, right? And what happens to that technology? It goes into the closet, or it just becomes a computer, or whatever that might be. But I think that's a big issue, because the vision behind that and the full training to maintain it and to keep that technology working in that school district or that campus. So what kind of training do you offer right now to make sure, and is there a cost associated if in fact there is a transition from one teacher to another?
Yeah, so onboarding and training is the most critical part of making this new technology effective. So we tackle that in different ways. One is we have many tutorials and online information that anyone can access. Two is we have a dedicated technical support rep for free to any of our deployments that can be reached out to. Hey, how do I use this feature? Or can you modify this? Or are you able to do this? Questions like that are generic questions that they can help answer. We also offer on-site support, so they can come on site and we spend a week getting everyone up to speed.
Yeah.
But we view support as something that is absolutely necessary, as important as developing this tech, because it's something that it's a very new technology. It's not a B2C product yet. So it's something that we definitely want to help onboard. But we have a very sophisticated and very streamlined support team, and they answer tickets and answer customer requests very quickly. And also get a lot of feedback as well for, hey, this feature request, things like that, that we try to incorporate and update our software. So definitely support is huge, and that's something we work very closely with every deployment and offer like any level of support that they need. For most questions, we typically have a ready answer for, and so far we found that onboarding within a week, they're pretty used to tech and they're able to use it fine after that. And definitely if there's someone new using the tech, then we get on a call with them and onboard them as well. So that's something very deeply incorporated within our firm.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. Well, Nick, thank you so much for this time to be able to get these answers, and hopefully we'll allow people to really think about their plan, their future of bringing in immersive tech, because it is, I mean, we didn't even go over the wow. There is a lot of wow to it, no doubt.
A lot of cool applications, yeah.
Yes, the students
just beginning.
It up. You're just definitely getting them over. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, making sure that they're going down this path correctly for that success. So I really appreciate you taking the time. And I would love to test out your technology. Maybe we'll run across each other at a future educational event or something. And again, thank you again for your time.
Thank you a lot, Jamie. And it's great to be able to talk about this tech, and happy to do so anytime.